Welcome back to another episode of the Hiris Makes Knitting podcast. I'm Iris and I'm a knitwear designer and just a lover of fibre, knitting and all things craft. So today I was planning to talk to you a little bit about my yarn stash. So I mentioned at the beginning of the first episode that I wanted to do a whole tour through my stash, and well, it would be quite long, which isn't great. You know, we've had all these conversations about sustainability, and one of the things that is not sustainable is just overconsumption, no matter how good the products are that you're buying. So that aside, I know that I probably have a bit too much yarn in my stash, but I want to show you some of the more sustainable things that I have, and maybe talk through some of the ideas that I have to make with those things. So I've got into knitting originally through crocheting and through natural dyeing. So I've always been quite aware of sustainability issues. My parents are marine biologists and they work with climate change research. So it's always something I've been aware of, but I've never been, really active or proactive as I maybe could have been in that case. And, more recently when I was developing the Hiris Makes knitwear design aspect, I did use more commercial brands because they're easier to get in other places in the world, whereas a lot of the very sustainable things are very local. By their nature, that makes them more sustainable. So it's always a bit of a trade-off, and there are many different layers of sustainability. And we'll come through that a little bit when we go through the stash that I have. So today I'm just going to do a quick whiz through, and later I might do some series with more in-depth research into the different brands and kind of where we can be the most sustainable and where maybe it can be a bit harder. So, okay, in no particular order, because I just have it all in this big bag here, I'm going to pick some out and just tell you what they are, tell you very briefly about the company and why I selected them as my sustainable stash rather than the less sustainable stash, which I do have some of still. And I mean, they're probably all sustainable in some senses, but not the best. So these are really the better half of the sustainability yarns. So right at the top here, I have a couple of Knitting for Olive yarns. So I have, I think in this bag, so far the heavy merino, which you can see here, and the pure silk. So Knitting for Olive, they make really, really lovely yarns, of course. I think everyone who is a kind of active in Instagram knit world, they've seen Knitting for Olive yarns or have probably tried them or wanted to try them. So they make absolutely gorgeous shades, and they do make quite a deal out of the sustainability. So all of their yarn is sustainable in different ways. I have to admit most of it comes from South America, so that is maybe not the most sustainable option in terms of local production and transport costs, things like that. But they say that they use these yarns because they can get really good quality. So most merino comes from South America, and that's just, one of the softest wool fibres you can get, so very popular for knitters. So they all have high animal welfare standards, and they say that they have respect for the environment. Their silk is potentially very interesting for people because it's like a different kind of silk. So I don't know if you can see in the video here, it has this sort of slightly rougher texture. And this is because they use a type of silk that comes from silk moss. So all silk is made from moths, but not the kind that eat yarn, the kinds that make yarn. So anyway, it comes from the moth, and some of the practice is to basically kill the moths and take the silk cocoon that they make, whereas the Knitting for Olive silk is they allow the moths to hatch, the caterpillars to hatch and fly away, and then they use the silk left over. So in that sense, there's no harm to to the moss in that production. So that's pretty good. But yeah, not a bad one, but I think also probably not the best in terms of sustainability. But that's where the trade-off comes in. Okay, then next up we have something I think that I would say is a bit similar in terms of its kind of sustainability standard. So something I should mention, the knitting for olive, I believe they're all non-superwash as well. So we have the quite new yarns from avec Anna, and these are just available in a couple of different bases and colours, but they're all really nice and they've got really, really cute labels as well. So her kid silk mohair again is made with moss that were allowed to leave before the silk was taken, so they're not killed in the process. But again, all South American yarns are for the same reason, because they're really soft, and I think also probably quite good value. The difference here is her merino base, so this is a 4-ply merino, is superwash. So if you followed me for any length of time, you've probably seen my superwash article and heard me moan about it. I won't go into detail on that right now, but basically it's quite bad for the environment because it uses a lot of water. It's basically bleaching the yarn, and the wastewater is quite toxic. And it also, in some cases, means that the yarn is no longer biodegradable afterwards, so it's not ideal. So she says on her website, let me try and find this, that that although the superwash process is a bit less sustainable in terms of production, that it can increase the product life. Maybe. I think it sort of depends how you treat the yarn. And I think the main reason that they're using the superwash at the moment is that they're not able to get non-superwash from their suppliers in the quantity that they want. So I really hope that they can move to non-superwash yarn in the future. And to be honest, on the scale of superwash yarns, it doesn't feel really plastically and horrible, so maybe it's a more minimal superwash process. I know there are some variability in the process, it's some kind of more superwashy than others, if that makes sense. Anyway, still gorgeous colours, and swatches up really nicely as well. Okay, then next up we have some Sandes garn. So this is another quite big company, and I was never really aware of what their sustainability criteria really was. They have a few superwash, a few non-superwash. They have obviously an amazing range of colours, and again it's something you see used quite a lot, especially in Europe. But I was actually quite surprised when I went on their website that they have a really detailed and quite long section about sustainability. And they go into everything from the wages of the workers through to the processing, the animal welfare, everything like that. So it's quite impressive actually that they've really thought about it. And I think for the most part it's pretty good. I think again it's mainly South American produced for the same reasons as the others, but you do get some really lovely products, and I really like the fact that they've taken the effort to really write a lot about it. So that's the Sandes garn, and then we come to this onion, where I have this kid silk again, and similar, this is South American produced, but I couldn't find quite as much information, at least not in English, about the sustainability of the onion yarns, but I think it's similar to the ones I've just showed you. And these are 100% natural fibres are used, and I think they do take care to try to select things that are a bit more sustainable. So that's the onion. So this is, I would say, maybe one step up in sustainability from the last ones, and this is Mondim by, I'm going to mess this up, Rosa Pomor. they're Portuguese, and I am so bad with pronouncing things properly. I'm really sorry. And I always mess people's names up and everything. I'm quite dyslexic, so I blame it on that, but it might not be just that. Anyway, so they produce yarns made exclusively from Portuguese wool, so they're based in Portugal, and they also collaborate with small manufacturers and breeders, etc. And I think they have a shop that also sells other brands, if I'm not wrong. And it's all animal friendly, and all sorts of things like that. And I believe most of it is also non-superwash. And they have lots of amazing bases. They have also things that are kind of variegated, speckly colourways as well. So if you're into that kind of style, this is quite nice. And this is the one I've got here is 100% Portuguese wool. And it's lovely. To be honest, it doesn't feel dissimilar to the heavy merino from South America, from Knitting for Olive. So I don't believe that you have to get South American wool for it to be soft. And that's definitely not the case for British wools, because there's a lot of amazing British wools. Anyway, so I really like this. I need to think about what to make with this. I just bought it because I love the colours. I don't know, but it's nice. Okay, so... Okay, let's have an order then whilst we're at it. So next up we have a French yarn. This is by Rerum Natura, which I'm sure I pronounced wrong. And this is French merino wool. So this is merino produced in France, and it's woolen spun. So merino doesn't have to come from South America. It's just a type of sheep, so you can breed that sheep in other countries as well. And this yarn is amazing. So maybe we'll talk in another podcast episode what woolen spun and worsted spun and everything means. It's probably too much to cover now, but it's super bouncy. It is gorgeous, and they have amazing colours, of course. And they try to produce basically everything in France, and I think they also use some Portuguese wool. And they use it for most of the colours. They use a lovely kind of blend of naturally white and grey sheep, so they get a really nice rich colour. It's all, I believe, all non-superwash. So really, really good. And I think it's quite widely available. So yeah, I love this, and I think I'm really going to knit more in their yarns actually. Okay, so what do we have next? So before we go into the British yarns, let's stick a little bit with the European ones. Why not, whilst we're at it? So the next European one I have that's also available in the UK is a avec. So I talked a lot about this in the last podcast episode, so we'll skip over it a little bit. But I mean, sustainability, tick, tick, tick on this one. They're non-superwash. It's from their own single flock near Berlin. It's merino as well. It's woolen spun, so it's poofy, and they have natural colours, and the coloured ones are naturally dyed, so there's no chemicals. I mean, tick on every single criteria here, I think. And I believe they also have a shop in Berlin where they sell their own yarn. Might be online, might be in person. They sell their own yarn, but they also sell things from other companies which are really sustainable. So that's a really good resource where you can go and you can shop with confidence from them, I think. So yeah, I love this. It's really lovely. Okay, so we'll take a little quick detour now to a couple of yarns I have from America. So there's not many that I have from America because, of course, shipping is a bit complicated, expensive, slow, etc. So one of the yarns that I do have to show you from America is by a small indie dyer called Larissa, and she has her business is called Forest Lane Fibre Co. So it used to be called Fuzzy Green Fibres, so that's why the label here it says something different, but she is currently moving to this gorgeous house like in a woodland, so she wanted to rename her brand to be more kind of represent her more than it did. So Larissa is great. She is kind of one of the people who introduced me to the problems with superwash yarn. So she's really very proactive on that. And she said she started her business because as a knitter in America, it was really hard to find any non-superwash or non-plasticky, non-nylon-y, like really good, proper, locally grown yarns. And that if you could find them, they were maybe just in single colours. So she has started dyeing all of her bases with like also semi-solid colours, but really nice speckled variegated. So if you like that indie dyed yarn look, her colours are amazing. So not just because they're natural, like she's actually really talented as well. She doesn't use any heavy metals, so they are acid dyes, but they're not heavy metal free dyes. And I'm pretty sure most of her bases, if not all of them, are US grown. So if you're in America, that's really great because you can have local production. So this is a US grown merino. And yeah, it's lovely. It's got a very high twist, this one. It feels rustic, but it's not, I mean, not really rustic. Like for a merino, it's rustic, but it's really soft, it's gorgeous, and I've loved knitting in this actually. It's really nice. And I believe she's paired with some quite small local farmers as well. So she has some really nice bases, and that's worth checking out if you're in the US. Okay, so now I think we'll move on to the kind of more British yarns. So the first one I have here, which I guess counts as a British yarn because she's in the UK, is a woolen flower, which I also talked about last week. So this particular base is a kid silk merino, and this is South American, so similar to the knitting frolic type yarns. But she also dyes a lot of kind of much more local and sustainable yarns as well. I think it's just, I've not come across any manufacturer of a kid silk mohair that is not South American. So I think she just wanted to really dye this base because obviously, like, who doesn't love some mohair? And that's basically the only option to get it. So yeah, I mean, this is gorgeous, but her other ones, I would say, rank a bit higher on the sustainability criteria. And of course, it's all naturally dyed. And she forages loads of things and grows them. And yeah, she's very, very knowledgeable on natural dyes, and I think really good at getting the best colours out of them. So yeah, check her things out as well. So now we come to kind of the UK grown yarns. And of course, the UK has a really long heritage in wool production, and there are loads and loads of different breeds. I'd say probably the most famous would maybe be the blue-faced Leicester, which is a absolutely gorgeous yarn. I actually prefer it quite often to merino because it just has that fluff and it's light. It's just gorgeous. So yeah, blue-faced Leicester, but there are so many more. So we'll start actually with the blue-faced Leicester whilst we're on it. So this is from River Knits, and River Knits have all non-superwash yarns, all British grown, and I think they do stock some from smaller producers as well, not just their own. So the one I have from River Knits is this Chimera. So this is a really cool, like, multicoloured, like, spun yarn. Yeah, it's really cool. It's a bit like those spin cycle type things, but they're like mega superwashy. And this is non-superwash. It's blue-faced Leicester. It's British, and it feels amazing. So yeah, they have stuff like this. They also have more speckledy things and solid things. So yeah, again, if you like that hand-dyed look and something a bit more colourful, this is a really great option in the UK. So yeah, ranked very highly, I think, on the sustainability level as well. It's not natural dyes, but I think they also use slightly better chemical dyes. Okay, so that's River Knits. And then we come on to the, what's next here? Garthamore. So again, I talked about this last week. Turns out I bought a lot of sustainable yarns at Unravel. And I would say that's true. That was a conscious choice because I really wanted to go back to that more sustainable route in terms of yarns. So Garthamore, I mean, like, basically 10 out of 10 for sustainability. Not only is it UK grown, so they're in Wales, I believe, it is also all organic, and they have the most amazing natural shades. So this is a natural brown, but they've got sandy ones, they've got grey ones, they've got white, they've got black. And I think I might have mentioned this last time, but the fact that this brown is so soft is amazing, right? So this is a Manx. So this is an organic Manx Lothen. I don't know. I can't even pronounce it. British wool names. Anyway, this is a non-blue-faced Leicester. This is a kind of a more rare breed. And they use lots of different breeds. I think they have Jacobs and Shetlands and all sorts of different breeds. So that's how they get all of these different fibre types and different colours. And I think they're really, really skilled at mixing them and using the right thing for the right yarn. So yeah, they do dye with acid dyes, but they're all like organic certified, and I think they're comparatively better for the environment. And the scale that they produce at, obviously natural dyes can be kind of hard. So yeah, really, really lovely. I believe you can get it in a few other countries as well, internationally, in a few shops. I think they have quite a few stockists. And I think they're growing their business, which I'm really, really happy about, because that means more and more people are buying this kind of stuff, which is great. So yeah, lovely, of course. And then we have something kind of, I don't know, similar style, I guess, which is the Jamesons. So this is a really old brand in the UK. They've been around since like 18 something, I believe, in the Shetland Islands. And they use all Shetland wool, and they have a lot of undyed colours. They have dyed colours as well. To be honest, they don't say a great deal about sustainability on their website, but I feel like they've just kind of always done it the way they've done it, and that happens to be pretty sustainable. And they've not gone into like the modern fast fashion type, production. So yeah, it's a really great yarns. They're pretty soft, I feel, for Shetlands, and Shetland wool has like a great structure, it's really great for something you want to wear as a top layer. So yeah, check them out as well. I think they're really well priced as well, because they don't have that like Instagram friendly marketing and all that. It means they're really good value. I like them a lot. Amazing for colour work, really amazing. So I guess if you find patterns that call for like Icelandic type yarns, but you find them a bit scratchy, then this is a great alternative, because it has that structure, but like it's not too scratchy. So yeah, really like this as well. Okay, and then we have another naturally dyed, very small kind of brand in the UK, which is Blackall yarns. And yeah, I would say if I have to rank sustainability, I think she'd be maybe number 1, 2, like right at the top. And it's like everything, she's thought about absolutely everything. Not only is it all locally grown, British yarns, that she's up in Scotland, it's naturally dyed, she forages the things, it's non-superwash. She has so much information on her website. She even tells you in the mill that it was spun at, and like it has the names of the sheep, and I mean it's just amazing. Like 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. This is what we aspire to. And her yarns are also lovely. I mean, she's again really good at combining different fibres together to make really nice yarns, and this colour is gorgeous. Of course it doesn't come up very well on the video, but for a naturally dyed green, this is amazing. And this is a BFL, so Blue-Faced Leicester and mohair blend. So yeah, it does have a little bit of hair, which is nice. So maybe an alternative to getting the kid silk mohair. Yeah, it just amazing. And like she even says a farm. So the BFL comes from the Air farm, ARR. Help with the Scottish names, or I don't know where that is. Okay, actually, but her mohair again is South Africa. So yeah, I don't know. Does anyone grow mohair? Goats outside of, like in the UK or locally? I'd love to know, because that would be really cool, and I'd like to buy some. So yeah, that is her things. Amazing. Go on her website, follow her. that's for your like sustainability goals right there. Okay, and then we have another one here, which is, I would say, probably the most local to me. So I am in Cambridge, not really seen as a like wool production area. It's like super flat. There's not that many sheep, I don't think. It's mainly like fields of grass. Anyway, so close here is a county called Norfolk, and Norfolk is on the east of the UK, and it borders, well, like it goes on to the North Sea. And there is a breed of sheep called the Norfolk Horn sheep, which is a local Norfolk breed, hence the name. And I met, when I went to Yarndale last year, a lady who has started selling the Norfolk Horn yarn. So she kind of realised how little farmers get for the wool. I mean, we're talking for a fleece, it's like pence, like pennies. It's not even a pound or something per fleece. So it's actually sometimes cheaper for them to put them in a pile and burn them. So I would say that's like definitely not sustainable. And this is why you should buy local British yarn and not import it when we have loads here that's on fire. Anyway, so this is from the Norfolk Horn sheep. Again, this is woolen spun. So what she did basically is take the fleeces from these farmers, gave them a fairer price, and then has had them spun in the UK into yarns, and which she's now selling. So I think she had maybe 2 different weights. So she has this 4-ply, so fingering, and I think she might have had another one. I can't quite remember. But yeah, so it's 100% Norfolk Horn wool, sourced from small producers in Norfolk and spun in Yorkshire. So there are no mills anymore anywhere really in the UK other than sort of Yorkshire and maybe just Yorkshire, maybe also some in a few areas, but definitely not in Cambridgeshire or Norfolk. She cares so much about the history of the animals, supporting the local breed, the local farmers, etc. So it's really inspiring. And her brand is called the Fibre Workshop, as you can see here. So if it wasn't enough already, she then, in order to create colours, she naturally dyes it. And I think she said she wants to like grow everything herself and yeah, incredible, like really committed to sustainability. And these are 3 different shades of pinky red, I believe all from madder. So she writes also on the label kind of all the information about how it was dyed and everything. So yeah, and the spinning mill, the breed, everything like that. So really nice. I don't know what I'm going to make with this, but I'm thinking it's going to be gorgeous together. And this is 4-ply, but because it's woolen spun, it's so poofy. So you get more for your money with a lot of these woolen spun yarns as well. Yeah, so I think that is it. What I've got left in here is just a few bits. There's another different Garthamore skein in here. But yeah, so that was a little tour of all of my kind of more sustainable yarns in my stash. So if there's interest in it, I'm happy to do a little series where I talk a little bit more in detail about each of them. But I think now I actually did talk a lot about each of them. Can't help myself. Anyway, so if you've got any other brands that you really like, local producers, etc., let me know in the comments. Not that I need to buy more yarn, but I'm always on the lookout for kind of new people to support. So I'd happily buy like 1 or 2 just to test and give you guys a review if there's something that you're interested in. Yeah, so that's that. Hopefully you enjoyed this whistle-stop tour of my sustainable stash. One day maybe there will be a tour of the rest of my stash, but now I feel kind of embarrassed about some of the things that I bought when I didn't know any better. So what else is going on? I kind of lost my knitting mojo a little bit, I have to admit. The test knits that I was talking about last week, something, they weren't really coming together exactly how I wanted, because my gauge was still a little bit off on Sophie's slipover, and now it's ended up a bit big, so I'm out of yarn and, the whole thing. So I'm still deciding what to do with that. And then I have been knitting a little bit on some projects that have been forgotten for a long time, kind of in an effort as well to kind of slow down and just clear the decks and create a fresh start. But one thing that I have finally got round to is I've put a testing call out for this sweater, which is a sundial sweater, and I will finish writing up the pattern pretty soon. And this is actually made in the Sandes Sunday, held with a strand of the Filcolana mohair, and yeah, very pretty. I'm really happy with this design. I really love the way it catches the light, so it doesn't really look like a sundial, right, because it catches the light on these little rib sections. So if you're fast, there might still be spots in the testing call, but otherwise it will be out kind of late summer this year, ready for you to knit for winter time. So yeah, that's it from me. So click the like button, click the follow button, leave some comments, and I'll see you again soon.